What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Monday, February 6th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this 8-game NBA slate tonight. So at the point guard position, I like Josh Giddey from the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the Golden State Warriors, who have the 8th worst defense overall. They give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Josh Giddey has averaged 37.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He's projected at 36.8 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 40 fantasy points or more and get you 5 times value or more. He's $7,800 DraftKings salary, $200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 237.5 points scored in this game, and Josh Giddey has scored 51, 46, and 44 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 27, 37, and 29 minutes. So Josh Giddey putting up big numbers the last 3 games. I think he's got some pretty good upside and a good matchup here tonight. So I like Josh Giddey here versus the Golden State Warriors. Okay guys, now with Stephen Curry out for the Golden State Warriors, I do think it's a good spot to stack some of these Warriors. So take a look at Jordan Poole from the Golden State Warriors playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the 7th worst defense overall, give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Jordan Poole has averaged 32.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He's projected at 32.7 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.3 times value. He's $6,200 DraftKings salary, $1,200 more on FanDuel. So I love that DraftKings price. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 237.5 points scored in this game. Jordan Poole has scored 7, 36, and 34 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 26, 26, and 31 minutes. So I expect him to get at least 30 minutes here tonight with Stephen Curry out. And I do think he's going to put up some pretty big numbers here. I think he can score over 32 fantasy points, and that's 5.3 times value, even if he just scores his season average. So I like Jordan Poole here versus the Golden State Warriors. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls playing the San Antonio Spurs, who have the worst defense overall. They give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Zach LaVine has averaged 38.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 28% usage rate. He's projected at 37.3 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score 42 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's $8,100 DraftKings salary, and he's $500 less on FanDuel. So I like that FanDuel price. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 238.5 points scored in this game. And Zach LaVine has scored 55, 24, and 52 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 36, and 38 minutes. And Zach LaVine scored 43, 23, and 50 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Spurs. So I like Zach LaVine here versus the San Antonio Spurs. Okay, let me jump back to the point guard position real quick. I forgot to look at the player versus team history here. So Josh Giddey, he scored 44 and 42 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Warriors. So that's pretty good player versus team history. And Jordan Poole has pretty decent history here versus the OKC Thunder, scoring 25, 36, 27, 27, and 21 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Thunder. So I'm looking for at least 32 fantasy points here from Jordan Poole. I think he can get there. So let's go back to the shooting guard position. Another shooting guard that I like from the Golden State Warriors with no Steph Curry is Klay Thompson, playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the 7th worst defense overall, give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Klay Thompson has averaged 32.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He's projected at 30 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 40 fantasy points or more in this matchup, get you 5 times value or more. He's 7,000 DraftKings salary, 600 more on FanDuel. And we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 237.5 points scored in this game. I won't say it again, even though I know I got some more Warriors in here for you. So Klay Thompson scored 21 and 24 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 30 and 40 minutes. But with no Steph Curry, I do expect him to score more points here. The ball should be in his hands more often, should have a higher usage rate, and we're going to look for him to start knocking in those threes, stepping up with Steph Curry out. So I like Klay Thompson here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics, playing the Detroit Pistons, who have the 2nd worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing small forwards. Jaylen Brown has averaged 43.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 32% usage rate. He's projected at 40.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. He's 8,700 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 229.5 points scored in this game. And Jaylen Brown has scored 50, 37, and 56 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 39, 31, and 38 minutes. And Jaylen Brown, he scored 46, 39, 30, and 45 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Pistons. So I like Jaylen Brown here versus the Detroit Pistons.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. So I like Andrew Wiggins from the Golden State Warriors, playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, 7th worst defense overall, middle of the pack, defending opposing small forwards. Also eligible at the power forward position. Oh, we are on the power forward position. So also eligible at the small forward position. Andrew Wiggins has averaged 30.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He's projected at 30.1 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.2 times value. He's 5,800 DraftKings salary, 500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 237.5 points scored in this game. I'm sorry, I said I wouldn't say it again, and I did. Andrew Wiggins, he scored 9, 25, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 28, 31, and 35 minutes. So with no Steph Curry here, I think you could play 2 or 3 Golden State Warriors if you wanted to stack this game. I'll probably have 2 of them in my lineup. There's some good value plays here. So I like Andrew Wiggins, who has scored 28, 23, 22, 39, and 30 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Thunder here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, another power forward that I like, and I think this is a good value play. I've liked this play the last 2 games since he came back from injury. I think he's been underpriced. So I like Marcus Morris Sr. from the LA Clippers, playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing power forwards. Marcus Morris Sr. has averaged 24.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 24.3 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.1 times value. He's 4,800 DraftKings salary, same price on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 220 points scored in this game, and Marcus Morris has scored 33 and 32 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 36 and 32 minutes. So I like Marcus Morris, who scored 25, 41, 10, and 27 fantasy points in his last 3 games here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, moving on to the center position. So I like Draymond Green, but I think at this point I like the whole Golden State Warriors team. They got good matchups. They're pretty good priced. How do I say this? I think their prices are low for their upside. So Draymond Green has averaged 30.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game. And he's projected at 28.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's been playing really well lately, so I do think he can score like 32 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 6,400 DraftKings salary, 1,000 more on FanDuel. I'm not going to tell you how many points Vegas thinks they're going to score. If you forgot by now, you got a bad memory. So Draymond Green, he's scored 46 and 32 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 32 and 39 minutes. And Draymond Green, another reason I like this pick, he scored 39, 43, 38, and 47 fantasy points in his last 4 games here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, another center pick for you. I like Jacob Poole from the San Antonio Spurs, playing the Chicago Bulls, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, middle-of-the-pack defending opposing centers. Jacob Poole has averaged 31.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 29.3 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5 times value. He's 5,900 DraftKings salary, 600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 238.5 points scored in this game. Jacob Poole has scored 36, 41 and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 24, 28, and 21 minutes. Now, he's averaging 1.22 fantasy points per minute on the season. So let's hope he can play 26 to 28 or 30 minutes even. If he plays 30 minutes, you're looking at a good score from Jacob Piotr. He's been playing really well here, and he scored 48, 29, 44, 39, and 42 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Bulls. So fantastic player versus team history. So I like Jacob Piotr here versus the Chicago Bulls.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.